Hey guys, so today I want to take you guys along with me and show you just some of the realities of firewood and what we have to deal with around here. I know we've got a decent bit of equipment that we're trying to show throughout a lot of these videos, and I want to also kind of give you a little bit more of an in-depth view of some of that equipment and show you some of the frustrations along with owning some of that equipment, what we have to do to keep it going and do maintenance and repair work on pretty much anything. As you can imagine, firewood is pretty abusive to any equipment that you're running it through, and these cleaners and sorters are much the same as a firewood processor. You've got to work on it, and in recent videos I've done a good bit of work on that firewood processor and kind of showing you guys as well what we've modified and changed and tweaked in order to make things as efficient as possible, as well as, you know, keep it operable. So what kind of got me to want to do this video is looking at this wood pile that came off this last load that I ran earlier this week. I was noticing some bigger pieces that came through that typically wouldn't have, and I'll show you a few of those right here. Most of it is great size stuff, just like normal, but I did notice a couple larger pieces. Here's a couple of those for some examples, and this one could have fallen through anyways, but these are bigger than would normally fall through. So I kind of knew something might not be right. So I got looking over here and noticed on my tumbler, the Multitek tumbler up here. Now this is that sorting tumbler that we had built with I believe it's got, I think we ended up ordering it with 5-inch spacing, if I'm not mistaken, 4.5 inch, 5 inch, I think it might have been 4.5 inch spacing. And what I noticed, we ended up, and I'll show you when I get up there. I'm gonna bring you guys up there and show you guys a little bit of a closer look at the tumbler, because I know it's hard to even see it from down here, especially what I'm about to talk to you guys about. But basically what happened is, one of my, and I know this is common with large firewood producers, that, you know, these tumblers take it an absolute beating, and this is the steel that it's on edge inside that tumbler, and this is what, you know, divides the gaps. Basically this is what makes the gaps and for that wood to fall through. These are on about, I think we have them on 4.5 inch centers if I'm not mistaken. So but this right here ended up breaking. You know, it's welded on both ends right there, so it's all one piece of steel, of course, and it's just welded on the bottom edge. I'll take you up there and show you what I'm talking about. But this piece right here broke out, creating a much larger gap, you know, basically doubling the size of the gap. It's only in one little section that's this big right now, but after looking at things closer, I think we're about to lose quite a few more just like this. And I can live with one of them and you know, get a few bigger pieces off the end, and then that'll get sorted through before we end up delivering anyways. But I hate that that's happening, and I definitely, you know, don't want it to happen continuously. So I'm gonna look at, see if there's kind of some design flaws up there. I'm gonna look at it with you guys, take you up there with me. The best way I have to get up there is just by climbing up this blockbuster conveyor, which isn't too bad. It's just a slight incline, walk up that, bend over, so I'm safe, you know, it's nothing crazy. And then I'm gonna get inside that tumbler and show you guys what I'm talking about, as far as more that look like they're going to break, and you know, we'll go through what I've done modifications wise on some of this other stuff, and other things that I've had to fix. And as far as the blockbuster conveyor goes, this thing's been great. Haven't had to touch a thing on it. It's still pretty new to us, so we've had this thing a few months, haven't run a ton of wood up it yet. Most of our wood for the year was produced prior to that. We've done several tractor trailers, probably 15 tractor trailers through it or so. But I'm gonna go ahead and get up there and see if we can get a better view of the inside of the tumbler. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about here. So the weak point right here is obviously where it meets this. You know, it's welded right here, and it's welded right up under here. But as this takes a lot of abuse, what's happened is this piece right here, and it's on the other end, it's not right here, but it has broken off right there and right there. And it's kind of hard to believe that that happens, being that this is, I think it's 3/8 thick steel, 2-inch flat bar. Probably if it were 1/2 inch or maybe even 5/8, we might not have this issue. And I wish, you know, in hindsight, that that's what it was. But you might also see right here, we put, I wish I had a tape measure up here with me. I think we may have, from the factory, told them we wanted 5-inch spacing between these, and we realized pretty quickly after we started running that that was a little bit too much. And we figured the reason I did 5-inch was we thought, well, you know, if I ever needed to shrink it down, that's a whole lot easier than making the gap any wider. So what I decided to do was we decided to go with 5-inch, and I thought, you know, if we ever need to shrink it down, we'll just get a piece of flat bar and attach it to the face of every other one. You'll see how this one's, you know, factory, and then this one's got one on it. Same, you know, it goes all the way around like that. So, and that has worked great, and I honestly feel like it has reinforced these pieces to where the ones that I welded those to are probably not going to break. So at least that has minimized my issue, but you know, there's still a lot to do to you know, say if all of these are going to break here. That would be absolutely a nightmare. You can of course get new barrels for these. I have not looked into what they cost from Multitek, but I'm sure it's not cheap. You know, this whole unit here, back when we bought it, was $38,000, and that did include a power pack, you know, which we have down there on the ground. It was originally attached to this unit, and we just extended the lines to where we could put it on the ground, since we elevated the unit in the air. So this is a very, you know, pretty darn expensive piece of equipment, no doubt about that. And you know, something that we don't really want to invest in a new barrel right now. So what I'm probably going to end up doing, this thing's not very mobile. I can't just carry it into the shop like I do the firewood processor or a conveyor or something that's easy to move. And I don't have power out here to run my welder, and I don't have a portable welder that has its own generator or anything like that. So what I'll probably end up doing, I'll either hire out a portable, you know, a mobile welding service to come out here and help us, or I'll rent, and we've got a good company we rent from that's right down the road from us. I'll just rent a generator that can power my welder. That will more than likely be the option that I go with, and we'll get out here and do the best we can. But I'll get in there and we'll try to look and see a little bit closer look at what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the inside of the tumbler. You can also see from here the parts that we welded on to create that smaller gap. I think we ended up going with, you know, I think it's about a 4.5 inch gap now. It was originally 5 inches, and this has worked tremendously well. And I almost wish that maybe we had gone with something skinnier and put it on every single one if I'm going to have issues with all these things breaking. And the reason I know that there's more is because I looked from on the ground and noticed, you can actually see right here, see that crack starting to form right there, and that's how it starts. And then here's another one. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yep, you can see that pretty well, it looks like, right there. That one's a little bit of a deeper crack. You know, I mean, this one here I don't see anything on, and none of the ones that have the additional flat bar on it, I don't see any of those that are starting to crack. This one here is starting to crack right there. And my thoughts are, what I want to do is, and I know it's really just gonna, you know, make the weak point further over, but in order to mend this, what I like to do is put a scab, so basically put a piece of flat bar from here to here, and that way I have good surface area to weld around that piece of flat bar, and it'll help strengthen that, you know. But you also got to worry about this end, same situation, because that's what broke off. You know, the piece was there to there, and it was on the other end. I'll show you the exact position, but you know, that's what broke off. You know, it goes from weld to weld, and obviously that the weak point is right at the ends of it. It's pretty incredible that it's able to do that, but you know, as you can imagine, the amount of, you know, repetitive hits to this are pretty tremendous. You know, it just continues all day long. So that much abuse, you know, nothing can handle that, no matter what. So, but yeah, I see quite a few that look like they're gonna need some attention before too much longer. You know, and this is just part of it. The more equipment that you have, yes, the equipment is super nice to have and makes life a lot easier, but at the same time, if you're not prepared to fix it or able to fix it yourself, it's just something you've got to definitely think about before investing in equipment. You've got to either be able to spend the time to fix it yourself and have the knowledge and ability and equipment and tools to do it, or you got to be able to expect to have to pay to repair it. You're gonna have to know some guys that can help you, that, you know, a mobile welding service, or, you know, whatever it may be, mobile mechanic. You're obviously gonna have mechanical issues here and there as well. You just got to be prepared and know that that's part of it. You're gonna have to repair your equipment and keep it going, you know, unless you just have an unlimited budget and you can just swap this barrel at any time that one of these breaks, you know. But I definitely don't have that ability. I don't think that that's going to be the route that we take right now. It might be down the future that we have to replace this barrel, and one thing that I could see that could make it a little bit better, well, I don't know if it would or not, but I know that Easton made their tumblers are with that round tube. Their round tubing, the barrel itself is notched to go around their round tubing, so you guys pay attention to that next time you guys see one of the Easton made cleaners. I really do like that design. Gives it a little bit of additional surface area. I'm not sure how long those would last, being that they are just round tubing. I don't think it's solid rod. I believe it's definitely tubing. They are capped on the ends, because I mean it would have to be like 1.5 inch rod. I doubt it's solid. If it's solid rod, then that would last forever. That would be a very well designed tumbler. If anyone knows the answer to that, I would love to know. So definitely feel free to comment about that. That would be their tumbler. I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed with it. Seeing it in videos, I've also seen it in person at a firewood show right here in Tennessee. The one that Marlon put on. For some reason I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm going to show you, kind of take you a little bit further down in the tumbler here and see if we can see other. Yep, there's one that's cracking right there, and I'm just afraid we're going to have us, you know, but like I say, I don't see any of these that are cracking that have that extra piece of flat bar on it. Yep, so here's the one that broke completely off. Alright guys, so this is the one that broke completely off here. And as you can see, it broke right there at that weld, just like I was talking about, and right there at that weld. And I've got more. I think as you come down here, you get more of the bigger wood that's just taking a beating on this stuff. So you can see this one here starting to crack, this one here starting to crack. Oh yeah, this one right here, look at that. That one's cracked all the way through. And you know, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about it right now. I'll have to just, you know, I don't want to just rent a welder and just, you know, spend a little bit of time out here welding. When I rent a generator rather, I have the welder, but when I have to rent that generator, I want to make sure that I have everything in place to go ahead and repair it fully, you know, and repair it right. So this one here starting to crack, this one's starting to crack. So this is just part of it, guys, and that's kind of the purpose of this video. I wanted to show you guys, you know, all the equipment's really super nice, but it definitely comes with its downfalls. It comes with its perks, but it also comes with its downfalls. It's, you know, you gotta expect to spend some time on it. You're gonna have some downtime, and you know, you're gonna have to repair and keep this stuff going. So I'll go ahead and hop out of here. I mean, and I'll show you some of the modifications to the other stuff that we've done, or whether it be the disc cleaner, a little bit of stuff I'm going to show you on the Tumbler, and then also the Outfeed conveyor. Like I said, the Blockbuster is still just a stock piece of equipment. We haven't had to do anything to it yet. So one thing I want to mention too is whenever I do end up repairing this thing and fixing it, I mean, if any of you guys have experienced this problem and have come up with a solution that lasts, because my solution that I can think of in my head is, it's definitely a temporary thing. It's not something that's going to make it any stronger than it was from the factory. I will double it up with that scab on both sides there, and that may help some. You know, of course, it's going to narrow the gap there that the wood can fall through just in those small little spots. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. But you know, you know, it's basically just moving the weak point from where it's welded currently over a few inches if I scab on both sides. So I don't see it being a, you know, a permanent fix that's gonna last forever. You know, so let me know if you guys come up with any idea that you feel like could be a more permanent solution, or at least a longer lasting solution. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get down, and I'll get showing you guys some of the other things that we've had to do to some of this equipment to keep it going as well. So all right, so moving on down the line, the Blockbuster conveyor is completely stock. You can see what we've had to do in order to get this disc cleaner underneath this tumbler here. We've had to do a lot of modifications to both pieces of equipment. You can see right here this leg, and I know it's buried with debris. Go ahead and unbury that foot. You can see this leg here. There's the foot to that leg. This is on the Multitek tumbler. Goes on up. So we ended up having to cut the leg in order to put this extension in the leg to get it high enough to get our disc cleaner underneath it. So that's one modification we've had to do to the tumbler itself, and that's no fault of the manufacturing of the tumbler. It's just it couldn't get that high, and we liked this idea. Gives us a little bit smaller of a footprint for the whole operation, and it also makes it where you can turn, you know, you don't have to be straight in line, or have something else catching this and putting it into the discs. I think that's how we originally set up. We had a conveyor underneath this, then putting the finished wood into the discs along with the debris, and then going up the conveyor. So that was just one more piece of equipment, you know, one more thing to, you know, wear and have to, you know, constantly fix and constantly, you know, have to worry about one more thing running. The fewer pieces of equipment you can have running, and the, you know, the simpler you can make it, the better off you are. You know, less jam ups, less, you know, less maintenance, less repair, less fuel you're having to run. We had to run an additional power pack to operate that. So yeah, I just, you know, just minimize things as much as you can. So this has been really nice. I really like the way this is set up now. I think we're going to keep it this way for quite a while. I say that now, and we might come up with something new tomorrow, but I think this is how we're going to stick to running. We've been running this way for a while now, and it's been good. So yeah, we put those legs on that. As far as the tumbler goes, other little modification we've done is we had to reinforce these, I guess, deflectors is what you'd call them, that it channels the wood into the discs, and these are factory. This is what came with them, and as you can imagine, most of these tumblers are built to only sort out the trash that comes out of them. So that's what these deflectors are typically made for, is to sort the trash out, not to be getting finished size wood dumped onto them all day long like ours is doing. So the deflectors are not very heavy built. They're super thin gauge steel, and I've had to reinforce them with, just put a couple pieces of angle iron across them and reinforce the mounting corners right there, because that's the only mounting point, is up in the corner up there. It just bolts through there, and it's a pivot point, and then you can kind of swing it at whatever angle you want them to be at. And this has worked really well. I mean, I do see that, and I kind of knew this was going to happen. The steel is so thin, you know, the weld's hanging on my angle because it's heavy enough steel to weld to, and it's not going to break, but it's breaking the sheet steel. I don't know if you guys can see that. But right there's a couple welds that it's actually, and I kind of knew that is what was going to happen when we did this, but you know, I knew it wasn't going to be permanent. I think the permanent solution is just get a whole new chute bent for each side out of probably 3/16 steel would probably be thick enough. It's probably built out at, well, might want to go quarter. I mean, I know that'd be heavy, but then you'd never have an issue with it, I think, if that was 1/4 inch stuff. 3/16 probably do it, but anyways, that's our issue with that, which isn't a huge deal. While I'm here welding on that, if I end up renting a generator, I'll go ahead and put a little bit more weld on each of those and get a little more life out of it anyways. But yeah, I think as far as the tumbler goes, those are pretty much the only modifications we've done to it. I am obviously going to have to do that repair work to it as well in the near future. I was really hoping I could wait until fall when the temperatures cool down, but I'm afraid we're gonna, you know, that one that's broken all the way through already on that one side, I don't know how much longer that'll last, you know. And if we lose another one of those, we'll be letting way too much, you know, resplits into our finished wood. So I'll probably wait till that does break in order to, you know, before I do the repairs, at least get it where it's pretty much not usable before I do the repair works. Probably what I'll do, but we'll see. I don't know. If we get some cool weather, I might just, you know, opt to go ahead and do it. If we get some days that are maybe in the mid 80s or something like that, you know, August coming up, that'd be probably the best case scenario if we had some days in the mid 80s. So but I could get out here early morning and get it knocked out maybe before it gets too hot. It'll probably be a half a day worth of work or so, between all the little things I need to do. But now let's move on to the disc cleaner and just see what we've done to it. You know, obviously getting this thing, we've hung this, you know, on the rear here. We hung this from the tumbler, and these D-rings, they don't come on it. That's something that we welded on to give us a hanging point. So that, and the reason we did this, so that we could cut these legs off. Well, we didn't, I mean, these legs sleeve in and out, the legs that go in here, but we did end up, you can see this right here, it had a mounting point just like this, or a socket just like this. It did not have a mounting point. This mounting point right here is for the Outfeed conveyor, and we did originally have the Outfeed conveyor on this, not the chute. Now that Outfeed conveyor is attached to our processor. That's the Outfeed to our processor. So we cut these flush because there's no need for them up here at all, and it just gives us a little bit more clearance to get this hopper under here. And this is our trash hopper that gets all of our debris. So we cut those off a little bit, took the legs out, and now it's hanging from our tumbler. And you know, it's not like the entire weight of the thing's hanging. We got the front legs on it, and then it's just hanging right there. So yeah, that's one modification we've done to it. Another thing we did, we welded this chute on right here, and we welded this chute on right here. Originally we were catching all this debris in IBC totes, and so that's why we really narrowed it down. But this has helped a ton. You know, I mean, the more stuff that you can get to fall into this bin, as you can imagine, the better off you are, the less debris that you have to pick up off the ground. You can see that there's still some that escapes, and we just scrape this out with a skid steer every now and then. It's not a lot, and we don't worry about getting it perfect down to the, you know, last little piece or anything. We just do a little bit and as needed. One other thing that I did, we had to cut this chute off right here a little bit in order to get our conveyor underneath here easily, and then I ended up having to make this angle a little bit steeper. We have this thing pitched kind of back, and so that lifted that up, but we were having problems with some of the pieces getting stuck on the outfeed chute there, and that was kind of a frustrating thing. So we ended up cutting. You can see how I pivoted it out, and we just cut it across there, and then we just bent this down and just wedged in a piece and welded it in there. It's not pretty, but it was necessary, so we had to do it. And I think as far as the discs go, that's, well, no, well, let me see. Yeah, right here you can see what's factory here. So there's a factory chute on the back, or I guess funnel on the back here, that we added to. For a little bit there, we were cleaning out all of our finished wood one more time before it was being loaded into dump trailers. That's how we used to deliver our wood. We don't do it that way anymore. So what we ended up doing, we built this hopper right here. At one point we were loading out for all our deliveries into dump trailers. We had it set up like this, and we built this hopper on here so we could get our rotating forks and rotate these baskets, IBC baskets, into that hopper and clean the wood one more time, and then it would go up that conveyor into our dump trailers. So that worked out well. We have a different delivery method now where we don't utilize that anymore, but if any of you guys are wanting to do something similar to this, you can also, another thing, we have an 84-inch wide bucket, and we wanted it to be wide enough to load with our bucket right there, which it is. And so this is possible. This is something that, you know, anyone can do if you can weld, and that has worked out really well. And I think, you know, it also helps catch any piece of wood that could sling that way out of the tumbler or anything like that. So that helps, where then you know, instead of loading over the side of your disc cleaner, if you have one, you can load straight from the end. The perk to that is, of course, that your wood has the longest amount of time to travel over all of these discs and get as clean as possible before it exits. So that's a cool thing, and we did that, you know, a while ago, and that works good. So I think that pretty much covers the tumbler and the disc cleaner. We'll move on to this outfeed conveyor here and what we've had to do to it. This is not, just so y'all know, this is not a firewood designed conveyor. This conveyor is built by Candler Equipment Company, and they're a local company, Gainesville, Georgia. We did not buy this from them. We bought this secondhand off Facebook Marketplace from someone, but these conveyors are designed to move chicken litter. And we thought, well, I think this looks like it should work for firewood. And you can see how it's designed. It's extremely heavy built, and we like the size of the hopper that it has right in this area. You could load this with a bucket, whatever you need to do, rotate IBC totes into it, you know, anything like that, and it can take a beating, and it doesn't matter how much wood you throw on this thing, it's going to move it up there. The way this thing's designed, it's got, you know, a gear system up top up there, with a hydraulic motor with a gear system inside there. It looks like it's leaking some oil. Just noticed that. I don't know if that's hydraulic oil or if that's gear oil inside. If it's gear oil, we need to address that issue pretty quickly because it doesn't have a whole lot in it. But anyways, you know, everything right here, other than we did swap the motor, we had to put a Predator motor on it, had a Honda on it, was giving us some trouble, and ended up throwing a Predator motor on it. We ended up putting a new fuel tank on it. I think that may have been our issue, honestly. It was just that we had some really bad fuel in it. The fuel tank had some holes in it, and didn't really realize that until after we swapped the tanks, or after we swapped the motor and then swapped the tank. But everything else is original. It's got just flow control right here, so this is what controls your speed of the chain itself, and then, you know, your throttle can of course control the speed as well. And we run this thing, we move the flow control about midway and run it at complete idle, and it moves slow, and then it moves any amount of wood, no hesitation at all. So, you know, it's fine that it goes slow. This conveyor most of the time is just full of wood whenever we're running in some pretty good logs. And this is our elevation. You know, this raises and lowers the conveyor. Let's see, just anything that we've done with this. Only real things we've done with this, we did put a guard down there. Hopefully you guys can see that. We ended up adding a piece of steel on the back edge, then we put a little rubber flap. We had some pieces of wood that would slide up under there occasionally, and you know, we know that that rubber flap is something that's going to have to be replaced, and it's not even big enough. It was just what we had laying around the shop. We definitely need to get a bigger, better piece of rubber to go there. But this one has worked fine. We haven't had any pieces sliding down through here. I'll show you the back side of this here. And this is what we welded on, was just this piece of steel. We just wanted this gap here to be as small as it could be so that pieces of wood can't come up under here, because we were having a few issues with some pieces jamming up. We would get pieces would come back in here or get into this area, and then they would get jammed up under here and end up bending these paddles. You know, whether it gets, I think it would mostly get caught right here on this edge as it was coming back around, and it ended up bending these paddles. And that has been the biggest issue we've had with this conveyor, being that it's not designed for firewood. I mean, you know, but even firewood designed conveyors still have their issues. They still end up getting jammed up. But the chain on this thing is super strong. It's crazy that it will bend. It will even break these paddles before it will break the chain. So I mean, that is a good thing. Also, you know, a good and bad thing, I guess. But you know, this has been something that we definitely have had to service and keep an eye on, and it's not too big of a deal. You know, if it ends up breaking one of those paddles off, typically what I've done is I've just cut them off, and then, you know, the next time we move this conveyor, which, I mean, this conveyor, it moves pretty easily. We can hook it to our skid steer. I'll show you what I did over there. It used to have a hitch coming out right here in the center that made it towable, but we figured we aren't going to tow it down the road. We should move it around here at the shop, so I moved it over to that side. I'll show you that here in a little bit. And that's how we move it around the yard here and get it in the shop and stuff whenever we need to do any service work on it. So not only will the paddles jam up right there, they'll also, as it's coming around the top up there, sometimes a piece will get underneath it. And then, in all honesty, it's crazy, but pieces will ride on the bottom side of this, and then hopefully you guys can see this. Pieces will ride until they get to this piece of angle, and then it will sometimes jam up on this piece of angle and get caught there. And there's a few opportunities for that to happen. So one other future repair that I think I'm going to do to this is put a I'm gonna get like a stiff bristle broom and mount it up there. You know, I'll mount it to the framing somehow and have it be brushing on all the paddles as they're coming by, and I'll have it up there close to the top, so it knocks those pieces off and they don't end up causing any issues. So that's something that's been on my to-do list, and, you know, in my spare time. So I mean, you can see kind of this paddle right here, how it's bent. See that one there? I know there's a few others on here, and you can kind of unbend these if you want to. That one's not bent bad enough to worry about, but you can unbend them. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it is doable. And I think that's pretty much, well, I'll show you that one little modification that I did on to move the hitch. This last little thing that we had to do to this was just move this hitch over. Like I say, it was over there in the middle, and it was a lot longer than this too. It stuck out. We couldn't get it underneath our disc with the legs here, so we had to move this over and just weld this back on right here, just to get it where we can hook to this and just move it out of here with our skid steer nice and easily. So that's been a good thing. And then we figured if we ever needed to sell it or whatever, and we would just, you know, re-weld something back there in the middle to where it could be towed with a truck. You know, it's not the best thing to tow with a truck anyways. It's just something, you just take your ball out of your receiver, put a pin through it. You know, that's how it's designed to be moved around. And what we have a set of forks that we put a hole through the end of it with our cutoff torch to fit this pin through. So we just, you know, put our fork in there, put the pin through it, and just drag it out of the way. It is an extremely heavy conveyor, so it flexes that fork down a good bit, but we're able to get it around the yard here just fine, so not too bad. And we're able to just literally just pull that thing straight out this way, because there's no room for the tires to move forward hardly at all before it hits the Mafia blocks there. But it works, you know. And you know, knock on wood, I haven't had to mess with any of these paddles recently. They've been going for a while, I think. You know, but you can see that little section right there that we've cut out. Cut out a couple, I think cut out 2 right there, so we're missing a couple right there. You can see that other one way up there, we're missing 1. If you can see that, it's up there a little ways. Looks like we're missing 1 right here. So I mean, when they do get bent, if they get bent too bad, I'll cut them out, and then we'll just put new ones in whenever we do end up moving it. But this thing's been here for a long time without us having to do anything to it other than just cut a few paddles out, you know, here and there. So this is not a major maintenance nightmare. I am a little bit concerned about that motor up top that I just mentioned earlier. I don't know what's going on with that. It almost looks like it's gear oil, not hydraulic oil, so there might be a gasket or something. So I mean, like I say, it's just always something when you have equipment. And I mean, I would have never even noticed that if I hadn't been looking at all this other stuff. So I'm glad that caught my attention, and I'll at least check the fluid level on that. And you know, we might have to just put a gasket in it or something. It's like it's a little like clutch assembly in there or something. That, I mean, it won't stop though. It'll literally it'll literally break these paddles before that little motor will stop, even with it at idle. So that's why I run it at idle, just in hopes that if something does jam, that it will kill the engine before it will tear itself apart. But we've had it, you know, tear the paddles, literally rip the paddles apart. So, which is crazy to think about, but that's how strong that thing is. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring you guys along today and show y'all kind of the frustrations about having, you know, equipment in general. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, you're gonna have issues with it no matter what, and it's just part of it. You know, there's definitely perks to it and positives, but there's definitely drawbacks as well. And I just wanted to bring you guys along, kind of show you some of what I have, you know, what we have to deal with this equipment. Not knocking anybody. I mean, everything's gonna have its issues, and you gotta work through it, whether you repair things yourself or get help to repair it. Just know it's going to cost you one way or another, whether it be your time or your money. And that's just part of it, and something that you have to think about when, you know, no matter what business it is, you've got to think about that and add that to your costs. You know, make sure that it's worth doing, and price things accordingly. So yeah, just wanted to give you guys my insight and show y'all what we're having to work through. And I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. But I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.